First, let's define what a thermodynamic system is. It is an experimental setup, such as a box of gas within a heat bath. The heat bath is the surrounding medium with a constant temperature and has significantly more heat reserve than the experimental setup. This allows its temperature to remain constant during the investigation, regardless of any thermodynamic changes in the experiment. The thought experiment comes from physicist James Clerk Maxwell from 1867. The setup is as follows. A box divided into two equal compartments, or similarly two separate compartments are divided with a frictionless door. The compartments are filled with some gas which is initially in thermal equilibrium with the surrounding environment, so their average speeds are also the same. The reason for this is that in thermodynamics, the temperature of a gas is proportional to the average speeds of the constituent particles. Also, the pressure of a gas is proportional with the frequency and strength of collisions with the walls of the container. By the action of a tiny imaginary being, a demon, who is able to observe the speeds and directions of each individual particle, he can open and close the door in such a way that without ever touching any molecule, and in this way never changing their energies, is able to let faster than average molecules in one side, and slower than average molecules to the other side, hence creating a temperature difference between the two compartments, and in this way decreasing the total entropy of the experimental system, thus violating the second law of thermodynamics in Clausius form, which states, "It is impossible to devise an engine which, working in a cycle, shall produce no effect other than the transfer of heat from a colder to a hotter body." In a similar method, the demon only allows to pass molecules just in one direction to go through, and stops all movements in the opposite direction, in this way creating a pressure difference between the two compartments, but in this way also violating the second law of thermodynamics in Kelvin form, which states, "It is impossible to devise an engine which, working in a cycle, shall produce no effect other than the extraction of heat from a reservoir and the performance of an equal amount of mechanical work." This is called a perpetuum mobile of the second kind, which is able to extract infinite amount of heat and work from an infinite amount of heat reservoir. The second law can also be phrased as, in any cyclic process the total entropy of the physical systems involved in the process will either increase or remain the same. Obviously, we don't use imaginary beings in science and physics experiments and interpretations. The demon actually would be a real physical device, able to store, process, and erase information. It can be any intelligent life form, or any computing device. It is important to note, and rectify, a problem with the terminology used. Although Lord Kelvin referred to this imaginary being as a demon, this term is not entirely accurate. The increase in entropy in the universe represents a move towards disorder and dissolution, a path towards death. Therefore, anything that opposes the increase of entropy could be more accurately considered an angel, rather than a demon. However, for consistency with historical and current usage, we will continue to use the term demon, and represent it visually as a demonic character, with a halo above its head. After physicists recognized the paradox, and also understood the undeniable universal validity of the entropy increase in the universe, they considered necessary to deal with this global monotonic entropy increase. Szilard, Brillouin, Gabor first thought the paradox could be solved by attributing the entropy increase to measurement, to the acquisition of information. However, later turned out that the demon's memory, its record-keeping device has to balance out somehow the entropy decrease caused by the action of the daemon, not on the acquisition of information, but on the erasure. Rolf Landauer in 1961 introduced the concept of logical irreversibility. Landauer's principle holds that any logically irreversible manipulation of information, such as the erasure of a bit or the merging of two computation paths, must be accompanied by a corresponding entropy increase in non-information bearing degrees of freedom of the information processing apparatus, or its environment. In the following, our goal is to understand this principle. However, in this video series we will reject this resolution, and an alternative solution and interpretation will be presented. In order to see why, we will go through this most widely accepted solution step by step. If you liked this video, leave your comment, like, and subscribe.